August 10th, 2021 meeting to order. Tracy, could I have roll call, please?
Harrington.
Here.
Hoffman.
Here.
Pollock.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Wason.
Here. Thank you. Item 3 is the approval of the agenda. Are there any things on the agenda you guys have questions about? There's been no changes to the agenda that I'm aware of. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Need a
Aye.
motion.
Opposed?
Need a motion.
I'm sorry. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda? Excuse me. Thank you.
And I second.
All right, now, could I have, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item 4 is the consent agenda. Just a few things on there. Do you guys have anything that you want to pull out to talk about separately? Okay, a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
So moved?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item number 5 is reserved for public comment for items that might not be on our agenda that anyone in the audience would like to share with us. Give us a couple of goes. Anybody have any items for public comment for us? All right, seeing none. Item 6, Kevin, welcome back.
Okay, thank you. I do have a few updates tonight for you guys. First, we'll start with the Southwest Growth Utility Project. We met with the contractor last week. They're getting close to completion now. They said right now they're planning on substantial completion later this month. So we are getting closer. I'm going to skip this one. City Hall, we're continuing to work on the schematic design. We'll have a submittal for city staff review September 3rd. Evergreen Road Trail Project, we had a pre-construction meeting with the contractor yesterday, but they won't be starting work until about October 11th, and they're planning to be completed by November 1st, which would be about a month ahead of their contract completion date. That meeting went well. Centennial Park Loop Road Project, the notice of award was sent to All American Concrete, and we're waiting for the signed contract documents back from them. We are tentatively planning on a pre-construction meeting for next week, and the contractor has indicated they'll probably start later this month, probably the third week in August. The substantial completion date on that project is in May of 2022. And then lastly is Ranchaw Way Phase 5. No major issues to report on, which is a good thing. They are nearing completion of the Phase 2 mainline paving, and I just found out about an hour ago that they will be closing the road, the full closure, August 30th. So it's coming up soon. That's an disincentive phase of the project, so they've got 77 calendar days allowed for that closure. They get it done early, they get an incentive bonus, and if they are late, they get a disincentive bonus. So that's what we worked out with the DOT when we set that project up. So so it's going to be almost 3 months. So it's definitely going to be disruptive, and my understanding is that message boards will start going up and showing up on the highway probably as early as next week to start warning people. So that, the major detour routes will be Jones Boulevard and Front Street, but I imagine all of our other arterials are going to feel the brunt of this in some way. That's all I have tonight, unless you have questions.
Kevin, just to make sure I heard it, did you see 77 days?
Correct.
Okay.
77 calendar days.
Calendar days.
So technically from August 30th, that would put it at November 15th.
Thanks.
That would be great if they can get it done and open to traffic again before winter. That's what we were really hoping for, and they have all they're really planning on, so.
Any other questions for Kevin? Thank you for the report. Item 7, City Administrator Report. Ryan, welcome back also.
Great to be back. Just a couple quick hitters from me tonight. First, as everyone obviously got the message, effective tomorrow, we'll be requiring face masks or face coverings in all public buildings for staff and visitors. Obviously, it's not the direction we wanted to go, but after consultation with folks, seeing our neighbors do the same. We felt it was the right and logical next step, so we'll continue to monitor that and hopefully can get back to normal relatively quickly. And then lastly, ending it on a bit of a good note here, we received word today, actually the mayor did, that Tracy Mulcahy was presented with the Certified Municipal Clerk designation by the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. So, pretty big deal. So nice work, Tracy. Thanks for your efforts in that.
Congratulations.
That's all I have.
All right, fantastic. Item 8 is the mayor's report, and the mayor did not leave anything for me to report on, so we'll slide on into item number 9, which is the CDBG Housing Sustainability Housing Rehab application. And item A is public hearing regarding the city's application for housing sustainability grant funds. So now is the time if anyone has comments for, against. I think you get to go next, so give us a second for this, Tracy. Or we'll
Tracy
she's
does have a
part
part
of this.
that needs to go into the public hearing, correct?
Right, I'll let you lead it off then.
Yes. So first, it's great to be here. Is it okay if I leave my mask on, or
You're
should I
doing
take
great.
it off? Okay. Hi, Ryan.
Hi.
So there are some, so I'm going to just apologize because there are things that I have to do because it's a community development block grant application. So when I submit your application for the exterior rehab for 5 owner occupants, I have to hit certify that I have said all these things. And if you know me at all, that's not possible of me to do unless I do it. So I'm going to quickly read through it. And then there's something else that I have to do after that, but which will be part of the public hearing. Again, I apologize. Okay. First thing, how the need for the proposed activity or project was identified. The City of North Liberty has determined that housing rehab funding assistance would be greatly beneficial in implementing its goal of maintaining safe, livable, and affordable housing within the city. The Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County has an FHLB-funded owner-occupied rehab grant, and while that grant is available throughout the county, nearly half of the assisted homes are located in North Liberty, demonstrating the need. The city has financially contributed to the Housing Trust Fund for many years, which indicates the importance the city has placed on affordable housing in the community, for both the creation of new housing as well as the preservation of existing housing. Number 2, how the proposed activity or project will be funded and the source of funds. The owner-occupied housing rehab project will be funded entirely with $207,495 in federal funds. The date the housing fund application will be submitted, it will be submitted online no later than August 20th, 2021 at 5 o'clock. The amount of federal funds to be requested is $207,495. Estimated portion of federal funds that will benefit persons of low to moderate income. 100% of the funds will benefit households with income at or below 80% of the area median income, so low to moderate income. The proposed activity will be located within the city limits of North Liberty and outside of the 100-year floodplain. Then you have to identify plans to minimize displacement of persons and businesses as a result of funded activities. Due to the lead hazard reduction activities required as part of this program, homeowners may be temporarily relocated from their home as part of the project. Because the project is an exterior improvements rehab project, and the only interior work to be done will be lead hazard reduction activity, displacement is not anticipated to occur often. If it does, a portion of the grant has been dedicated to cover the costs associated with temporary displacement. The amount will be allocated as necessary for each rehab project, again, paid by federal funds. You also have to identify your plans to assist persons actually displaced. Those owner-occupants who are required to be temporarily relocated will be asked to find housing that is lead safe in which to be relocated until the rehab home has passed clearance testing. The city will pay for up to 3 days of relocation expenses using federal funds and reimburse the rest of the funds once the full amount of days out of the project home is known. If the homeowner is to enter the home during a period of relocation activity, funds will not be awarded or reimbursed. And then finally, the nature of the proposed activity or project. This project will provide for the exterior rehab of 5 owner-occupied homes and the voluntary relocation of these participants within city limits. Exterior improvements will be completed, and any lead hazards identified in the interior of the home will also be addressed. Rehab activities include, but are not limited to, siding, gutters, roofing, windows, and activities related to lead hazard reduction. Eligible households must meet the state of Iowa's Housing Fund income guidelines. The home to be rehabilitated must be the occupant's principal residence and be located outside of the 100-year floodplain, and property insurance on the home is required. Maximum federal dollars to be spent per home on the hard cost for rehab is $24,999, plus an average of $6,000 per home for lead hazard reduction activities. The federal funds utilized for rehabilitation will be secured by a 5-year forgivable loan. So the next part, this is something that they've changed. And if you guys have applied for CDBG funds, you've probably done these, but a requirement of the grant application is to identify community development and housing needs assessment. It's a 1-page thing generally. In the past, what I've basically done is look at city plans and look at things you've done and then fill it in. I can't do that anymore. I actually have to ask you for the input and then write it down. So, we only have to identify 3 in 3 different categories. One is community development and housing needs of low to moderate income persons. Other community and development and housing needs, that would be for the entire, population in North Liberty, and then planned or potential activities to address housing and community needs. So, under the community development and housing needs for low and moderate income persons, the first one I've already put down because you're doing it right now, is you've identified a need for rehab of existing housing in the community, particularly those owned by low to moderate income persons and seniors in need of assistance to make homes more safe and energy efficient while improving neighborhoods. So I went ahead and did that one. So we need 3 of them. So some of the things, knowing North Liberty, my mom lives here, I wondered about if there are community development or housing needs, housing needs particular of low to moderate income persons in regard to purchase or in regard to rental that you would want me to put down as a need that you identify. Sorry that I've put you on the spot.
I made them do this with CDBG applications not too far long ago when we applied for money for
Okay.
the emergency child care program.
Okay.
There's,
How about,
Annie's ready to speak.
yes.
So you're asking, can you rephrase the question,
Yes, I sure
Tracy,
can.
please?
Just identify for me what you think a housing, let's do another housing one, and then we'll do a community development one. But it can be either of needs of low to moderate income persons in your community, what you see as a need. That's really what you're stating. So one things I thought of, just knowing your community, is knowing that your library and rec center do, provide a lot of service to a lot of people. I love your library. Whether there's anything specific that you target because there's a need to low to moderate income persons. Another thing I thought about, I know you do the summer food,
Summer lunch program.
summer lunch program. So whether we want to identify that as one of the needs then.
Back to school event. It's a great idea.
Targeted to LMI,
Yes,
to lower income
Yes.
folks.
both of those programs would be.
Okay, so a need might be for food resources for lower income families. Is that a safe thing to say?
Yes.
Okay. And then your back to school program. And what is that? What does that do for the lower income person?
Well, Tracy's intimately involved in that, but I would say, I would be concerned this year coming out of the pandemic. There are a lot of businesses that help sponsor that in,
Okay.
in-kind donations of backpacks and shoes and socks and school supplies that may not
Okay.
have the ability to do that this year
Okay.
with what has occurred. And so funding to assure that kids get what they need for back to
Okay.
school would be wonderful.
Okay. So we have our three. That wasn't so hard, was it? Okay, so the next three then are just pertaining to the population at large. 3 community development or housing needs that you have within your community at large. No income criteria thought about, just what needs do you think about?
So I think one with our community pantry. Do you want specific things that the pantry does, or?
No, just what it would need, like, does it need increased resources? Does it need,
You could say increased resources, in-kind donations, volunteerism.
They're looking at expanding service to clothing this year as well, so that may be that's a direct response to the needs assessments that they do in the community yearly.
very good,
They found what
okay?
they need.
Okay, so this is also then any income level. It doesn't have to be low to moderate, right? It's just any income level.
Correct.
Okay. I was thinking about your trails, or you were just talking about the streets, because I'm enjoying the one-laners for a while as I go to my mother's, but,
We have sections of trail that are missing that we would like to finish, and
okay, so connectability or,
Connectability, and I think too, highlighting, we've talked about just the safety of trails, so lighting on trails at night. Also want to make sure an effort to pave that connectability, so that way if you're walking or biking, or you have a wheelchair, a walker, access for all ages and all abilities is important to us as a city.
okay, I have to write them down because I've gotten old and I don't always remember, even though I think I'm going to. Surface, okay.
Would transportation be included in that?
And tell me more, Rakisha, what,
Meaning when we talk about accessibility and being able to get around in our community,
that's a-
transportation in itself, like we've had a program that we started, but we also don't have like a bus system or anything like that.
I think that's a great one, actually, if that's okay with the rest of the council. I think that's a
Absolutely.
great one.
Yep.
So, it's really a transit need, right, within the community? Okay. And right now, do you still have one that you connect with Corrigal? Is that? So
Yes.
you have that one that runs? Okay. See, I don't forget everything. Okay. But nothing really within the community itself, and you've gotten so large now that, there's,
we do have some in town for older folks and people on
okay.
certain
Targeted.
programs and stuff that's targeted
Targeted.
right now because of just where we started, so.
Okay. All right, then the last section is what your planned or potential activities to address the housing and community needs are. So the first one I have is that you're applying for CDBG funds for housing. So you need 2 more. Do you have plans in regard, what did you say, Brian, about the food pantry plans to expand its availability of the items they offer, to include clothing? Did you say that?
Yep.
That was Brent? I'm sorry.
No,
See
it's
how
fine.
easily I forget? Okay, I'm sorry.
So just listening to those that they serve, that was an unmet need, and so they're looking at expanding into a closet where they can take
Okay,
smaller donations of clothing.
okay. I'm going to put that down as one, if that's okay, one of the planned activities. What about for transit or trails, or what about the school supply funding? What will the city do will the city meet that need if the donors aren't there for the school supplies? Is that a dumb question?
Never a dumb question.
No, I mean, it's not it's not a line item budgeted,
Okay,
thing
okay.
that could be increased without finding the funds and vote of council. I mean, that would be a fair statement that it would be in jeopardy.
But we still will continue the summer lunch program. And that's something that I think we're really involved in.
So how about if I say continue the summer lunch program? Would that work?
If I could just jump in also, we do have a trails plan that addresses the connectivity issues.
You do have, okay,
And a capital improvements plan for funding
okay.
the major gaps.
So the trails plan to address the accessibility and the surfaces and the safety on the trails,
Yes,
all
and
that?
the lighting.
Connectivity, yeah.
Okay, and lighting, okay.
In the gaps.
I better put that lighting down so I remember. Okay,
You can
All
always,
right.
you can always watch it again on Facebook if you need to.
I like Facebook. Okay. Okay, I have them. So thank you, Mayor. My part is done.
My pleasure. I was not expecting a quiz this evening, so it lightened us up a little bit here.
Good.
I was going to tell Tracy, warn them, but then I thought, no, it'll be fun to watch. them.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Love watching us sweat a little bit. All right, are there any other members of the audience that have comment in regards to this line item, or this agenda item, excuse me? All right, seeing none, let's move on to item 9B, which is resolution number 2021-76. This is a resolution awarding community development block grant CDBG housing rehabilitation technical services contract upon notification of a housing sustainability grant award. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Further discussion?
Just want to thank you, Tracy, for all of your continued work throughout the city, and in particular to this tonight. And you can quiz us anytime.
Okay. I told Tracy I love coming here. My boss said, why don't you send another staff person? I said, not to North Liberty, I'm not.
Well, we're glad you're here.
We are too.
So anyway,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Any other comments, you guys, or questions? Okay, Tracy, could we have a roll call, please?
Smith,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Hoffman.
Aye. Item 9C is resolution number 2021-77, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor to sign, execute, and submit an application and associated documents for funding the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG Housing Sustainability Program. Could I have a motion for that one, please?
So moved?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments, you guys, on this one? All right, Tracy, could I have a roll call, please?
Wason,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Hoffman,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
So the only thing I will add to that is that part of that resolution was approving the administrative plan, and that you had that awesome summary that I'm sure I would opt to read rather than the admin plan. But anyway, so I wanted to point that out. Okay?
Anything else from us, Tracy?
I have so much paper in front of me right now. Do I have anything else on the agenda?
No.
Because the forms, the 2880 and the HUD disclosure were part of the forms.
They're all part of the resolution.
Okay, awesome. No, I'm done already, darn it.
Well, go tell your mother hi.
Well,
You can stay. We won't be here that much longer.
no, I'm not going to stay, but thank you, though.
All right.
But-
You're welcome. Thanks,
My
Tracy.
mother will be glad, though, but thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Have
Appreciate
a
your
good
time.
night. Good to
Thank
see you
you.
guys.
You as
Thank
well.
you.
Item number 10 is the Board of Adjustment appointments. And the mayor's made an appointment recommendation for Bo Brown and Laura Heffley to our Board of Adjustments. And I guess do we do a
Motion, second, and
roll call?
verbal vote.
Verbal vote. Okay, could I have a motion for that, please?
I would move that we approve the mayor's appointment.
I would second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposition? Congratulations, Bo and Laura. All right.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for your time. Item number 11 is the Solum Lang Architects LLC site plan, 11A, Staff and Planning Commission recommendations.
I'll take this
Thank
one.
you.
Playing planner tonight. This is a commercial site plan, as you can see, for a business that's currently operating in North Liberty Dental, looking to construct a new facility, about 4,000 square feet in size. It would be just east of what's now Top Shape Gym, or formerly of Core Fitness, fairly close to the medical facility that's under construction down there right now. So area's filling out nicely. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the site plan earlier this month, and staff also recommends approval of the plan.
Do we have an applicant presentation? Come on up.
I am Kevin Kuhn with MMS Consultants. I'm here representing Solum. Our site consists of a building that's approximately 4,080 square feet, 22 parking stalls, one of which is a handicap stall, and about 12,000 square feet of parking. If you guys have any questions, I would be love to answer them.
Terrific. Any questions for Kevin?
Will this be a second location, or are they moving locations?
I am not sure on that. All
Singular, it's not a location.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a new business.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I just appreciated the dedicated pedestrian walkway that was added to the plan, so thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks.
Very cool. All right. Item 11C is resolution number 2021-78. Thank you, Kevin. A resolution approving the development site plan for Lot 24, corridor commercial subdivision, Part 2A, North Liberty, Iowa. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other questions or discussion? I agree. Tracy, could we have a roll call, please?
Hoffman,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Harrington.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 12 is our urban renewable plan amendment. Item 12A is a public hearing on this item. If anyone in the audience has any comments to make in regards to our urban renewal plan amendment, now is your chance. All right, seeing none. Item 12B, resolution number 2021-79. And I don't have that resolution in front of me here. Give me a second. Yeah, it's actually right here. Resolution number 2021-79, thank you. A resolution to declare necessity and establish an urban renewal area pursuant to section 403.4 of the Code of Iowa and approve urban renewal plan amendment for the North Liberty urban renewal area. Could I have a motion for this one, please?
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded, and discussion.
So Ryan, just to go over what the need is for the expansion here.
Sure. So from time to time, we'll amend our urban renewal plan to add additional projects or locations. In this case, we're doing both. St. Andrews Drive was not initially in the plan. This would bring it in the plan. It would also then bring that project that we just recently completed into the plan, as well as Rancho Way Phase 5, Dubuque Street Phase 1, and some Penn Meadows Park projects. Really what this does is allows us another financing tool so that we can use TIF funds for some or all of these projects, depending on how it's outlined in the CIP. And by approval of this, then we're allowed to use those tax increment funds for these projects.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Tracy, could I have a roll call, please?
Hoffman,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Pollock.
Aye.
Motion passes, thank you. Item 13 is the 5 East Cherry Street building, and item 13A is public hearing regarding proposed disposal of property. Now's the time for anyone in the audience, have any public comment about this property that we are to dispose of? All right, seeing none. Item 13B is resolution number 2021-80 of resolution authorizing the acceptance of purchase offer received for the real property situated at 5 East Cherry Street. Could I have a motion for that one, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Do you guys have any questions or discussion points on that? Hearing none. Tracy, could I have roll call, please?
Wason,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Hoffman,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 14, Lot C, Beaver Creek, 3rd edition. 14A is public hearing regarding proposed disposal of property. Anyone in the audience have a question or comment about the disposal of this property? Seeing none. Item 14B is resolution number 2021-81, a resolution authorizing the acceptance of purchase offer received for the real property at Lot C, Beaver Creek, 3rd edition. Could I have a motion for this one, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Tracy, roll call, please.
Hoffman,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Awesome. Item 15 is our City Hall project, and item A is our resolution number 2021-82, a resolution approving services agreement amendment between the City of North Liberty and Shive Hattery, Inc. for the City Hall project. Could I have a motion for this, please?
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Do you guys have any questions or do we need any background on this, guys?
I can give a little background if that's okay. So this is an amendment to the existing design contract, and it's really including two things that were not contemplated in the first contract. The smaller of and the more easier of the two issues probably is the commissioning, and this is just something that was left out of that particular contract, which would come obviously later when the facility's built and we're in the process of commissioning the building. The bigger issue here is the design of the pedestrian plaza, and as we sat down in some of those early meetings to talk about this project, the question came out, how are we going to incorporate our visioning plan? How's this going to tie into Dubuque Street? And so we pushed Shive to do some early work without cost to do some of the design stuff, and at receiving a favorable comments from the council at a previous meeting, we now need to, if we're going to incorporate this design into that facility, we need to amend the contract to do so. So that's what you're seeing in front of you this evening, and we would recommend approval of that addendum.
Can I just clarify, so on page 104 in the packet or page 2, is that the 125K is the public event plaza subtotal of 110 plus the 15 for the building systems commission scope of work? That's the 125, right? Just to clarify, Kevin,
Correct.
shaking your head. Yes. Okay. Thanks for explaining the why. That was my question, but got it.
Any other questions? Good, okay. Tracy, roll call, please.
Harrington,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Hoffman,
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 16 is the Preserve Part 2A. 16A is resolution number 2021-83, a resolution approving the developers agreement for the Preserve Part 2A. Could I have a motion for that one, please?
So moved?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. You guys have any questions or anything from staff that needs to go over?
It's a developer's agreement for Part 2A of the preserve. You're going to see one that looks a lot like it for Part 2B before too long, I
Pretty
expect.
boilerplate, isn't it?
It is very similar to our other developer agreements, that's true.
Do you guys have any questions? All right, Tracy, could I have a roll call, please?
Pollock,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Hoffman,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 17 is our hate crime ordinance discussion. 17A is discussion and possible action. You saw in our packet, pretty lengthy and helpful memo from Grant and some work that he and our police chief did since our last meeting. And I guess I'll open it up to you guys. Do you have questions? Did this help answer those questions from our previous meeting?
So I guess I can start, I'll just jump in, team, if that works. Grant, thank you, this was really helpful. So just for all of you watching in person or online, we had some additional questions as a council that we just wanted to kind of cross all the Ts, dot all the Is, and our city attorney did that for us. So thanks for connecting with Chief at the police department and just going through the details of the calls, what those entailed, just really looking into how would this be impacted with historical kind of information for our own city data. And then part two was looking at other communities. I know you mentioned one in Idaho in there and others. So I just want to say thank you. So I think from at least the data lens team, I thought it was helpful getting that additional information and kind of also emphasize the scope of this hate crime ordinance, which obviously, as we discussed last time, is very narrow. But I think opening with that, it was helpful to see that additional data. And I think just echoing Counselor Smith, you said last meeting, we have been addressing and we're continuing to listen what's important to community members. So this is just one more example of listening and how that could be within our own community. So I'll open it there. Brian, how did you feel about the data? Because I know you had a question of that last time.
So I thought it was very enlightening, and mostly because it showed that when there were incidents involving minors, the PD and the staff exercised good discretion. And so part of my concern initially was, this being inappropriately used out of place is not what we were intending it to be and stuff. So I had a long chat with the city attorney today, and we had a very good discussion about checks and balances and discretion, and then the multiple checks and balances and where the council could be as a check and balance on that and stuff. So it would be my suggestion that in order for this to do anything, we all have to go all in to it. Because otherwise it's like, well, so since we're representing the city, then we should, all represent the city, and this is what we should say. So I think that I would still go along with the tract that I brought up last time, that, this needs to be expanded at a state level because it's kind of piecemeal and stuff. So one of the things we need to do is continue to lobby the state and actually probably have them add harassment under the state code, and then ours would then be somewhat not necessarily needed and stuff. So, but until that happens, I think we can work on something here locally. I think the other thing we should lobby them for is there is difference between the state law and the suggested ordinance, which was a copy of the Iowa City one, because that one included gender identity and marital status. And so I think that if we were going to advocate to the state, then probably we should, those things seems to be, to me, things that should be added at the state level as well. So if we were going to do that here, I would suggest a couple things, though, to the suggested ordinance that we have before us. So I think that instead of violation of individual rights, hate crime, I think I like it more bias-motivated violation of individual rights, because that's what it really is. There's hate, and, I hate broccoli, but this clearly says what that is, and I think it, kind of really, calling out what the problem is. I would suggest that for the first offense, instead of saying imprisonment of at least 3 days and not to exceed 7, I would say my possible jail time up to 5 days. And that falls into the discretion area because that would be up to the judge who could look at the totality of the situation and not necessarily put people in jail for things where they maybe were being stupid and not necessarily, came across worse than maybe they really are as a person. And then my second suggestion would be on subsequent offenses and not 30 days in jail, up to 30 days in jail. Again, allowing some discretion for the judge. And then to go along with the checks and balances for that, I think that it seems like the money from fines, 80% of that comes to the city. So I would suggest that we make it a policy that any funds that come to the city as a result of this are donated back to people in the city for, it goes food pantry or whatever. And that would be our policy, that we just doesn't put that in the general fund. We'd have to figure out how to figure that out, and I think we need to continue to make a resolution, though, that lays out specifically what we're saying or who we're trying to cover in this law, and that becomes part of the city. And I would suggest that we make a webpage with that people can refer to, and it can just say, hey, this is what we think, and this is what and the mayor's already outlined some things that's there, but I think just explicitly stating these things would be important, and then it's something that we could refer people to and remind ourselves periodically of. And then I think the other thing that would be helpful from a checks and balances situation would be when if this should occur, that somebody is charged with a crime under this ordinance, that as soon as legally practical, the council should be notified so that we can kind of keep in track of those things. Because, sometimes, I'm sure that the police do a lot of things that, I don't know how many, speeding tickets they write every day or whatever. So, but I think something like this, we should personally be keeping track of. Those are my suggestions. Oh, one other suggestion. The state law it actually has a political affiliation, which is excluded from the local ordinance. So I would stick that in there as well so that they match. So we expand on the state and not subtract from the state and add something else.
I want to say thank you also for going back and answering our question, or the group's question, with finding additional information. Also, just you touched base on a number of things, and from the state standpoint of what it is very vague, and they haven't moved a lot, so that does allow us to put something in place. I want to understand, did you just say you wanted to do a resolution and then continue to?
No, you got to do both.
Okay, that's what I was
So,
asking.
But
Okay.
we have to specifically state that this is what we believe, and this is why we did this.
Okay.
Because then it makes sense, and it has teeth. And that has to be a continual thing, not we passed this and now we're good.
Correct, okay, thank you.
Yep.
I was just trying to understand if
Yep.
that's where you were going with it.
Slightly different than, but last conversation we had, but,
Yeah.
we think on these things.
Yeah. And I think addressing this and continuing to work on the social justice initiatives, as is, we've been taking steps to acknowledge that and pay attention to what's happening locally. We know oftentimes things aren't reported because of fear. And just today, with someone reaching out and sharing their story, was like, I did not want my address known because of that very reason. And we know that oftentimes things aren't reported because of those things. And so we want to make sure that when these things are happening, people know that North Liberty, we are not going to tolerate it, and yes, it's going to put teeth in it, and just recognize that we want people to be neighborly and friendly and support one another. And we would hate to ever have to implement this at all, and to take action on it. But it does set a precedent of where we are standing in this journey of addressing social justice. And so I definitely want to see us have an ordinance, a resolution addressing it as well, and to continue to petition the state to make stiffer laws surrounding it as well. Something that you did say was to add some of the language that the state uses as well as here, and I think you have majority of that in the current ordinance as is written. I think the political affiliation is not in there.
It's
But,
not, that's the only,
yeah.
it subtracts that and adds the gender and marital status.
Yeah, so, I would definitely be in support of implementing the ordinance. And if we have to do a resolution as well, then I don't know how that actually works in doing both, or if that's actually done, at any time, but,
A separate resolution is not required. An ordinance is an ordinance, a resolution is a resolution, right? And then I'll just quickly say, of course, you're welcome for the feedback since you said things, but I wanted to give credit to Chief Benega for really quickly compiling all that data. She's the one that did all the heavy lifting there. I just wrote you a couple pages on what she put together. So thanks to her for doing that. So.
And one more thing that I want to add is when we talk about the young people, our youth, oftentimes that's when a lot of incidents happen, because those words and names are being called and it's being handled differently, a lot of times within the school district. And so we don't always hear about those, or sometimes the police isn't called because it's de-escalated. The one thing I don't want to see is young people being charged with the hate crime that's going to follow them as they're seeking employment or making other choices down the line in their lives. And so hopefully having something in place will also be a conversation piece for them as well, just as if they are making poor choices while they're learning how to drive or getting their license. We want to make sure that they understand that there's consequences with it as well.
Brent, do you have anything else to add?
No, I just, I agree, the thanks to Chief Vanica for the research, and what it showed us was we don't have them. And we are choosing to make a political statement through ordinance. I personally, if it was my personal vote, I would be against that. But I don't get a personal vote up here. My vote is for representing everyone in our community. And so my vote will represent those that reached out to me and discussed the topic. Again, when I talked about this topic last week, of course we're all in favor of speaking out against hate and speaking out against the things that drive anyone away from our community. Absolutely. I think there are different ways of going about it. I think that this will be the statement. I don't think it'll ever be used. That's my hope, that it never will be. But that's where I sit.
Brian, thanks for that conversation with Grant today, and I did my best to make note of your notes that you repeated out loud. And I just have a question on, and Grant, can we, Brian had 6 items that he would like to include in the ordinance or modify about the ordinance. Can we change, or is it in our discretion to change the number of days in jail?
Can we just give time for Brian to get with you on his thoughts, and then a full ordinance could be brought back?
Right, my question, I agree, I think that would be fine. My question is, can we fiddle with the time? Is it up to us, or is there a law?
You sure
anything
can.
about it? Okay.
So what we're talking about here is is a simple misdemeanor, and if you convict someone of a simple misdemeanor, the judge then will, the court will assign between $105 and $855 of a monetary penalty, and between 0 and 30 days of incarceration, okay?
Okay.
You can set minimums or maximums within those ranges, and/or maximums. So you could say a fine of no less than, $300, but not to exceed $400, for example, if you wanted to. Leaving it, but one thing I would note is that by putting a cap on these, for example, so if you said up to 5 days incarceration for a first offense for harassment, for example, that would be I think, a bias or motivation violation, hate crime, right? A standard harassment could still be issued up to 30 days in jail, without that extra element. That's something that the court has the discretion to do already. I've never seen or heard of them of a court doing that on a first offense for a simple misdemeanor, but they could, if the things are, so. You certainly can, just be aware that changing times and dollar amounts could result in maybe disparate outcomes it have the potential to maybe not make a lot of sense. And so we rely on the court to have good decisions, and they generally do. And if they don't, then people can appeal sometimes. So I get to ask and make a second sentencing recommendation upon a conviction, and so I would make recommendations on that. Usually it's up to the court to make those calls, though. Unless, Counselor, if you wanted to put in a minimum, then the minimum is what would happen.
So, Chris, so when I was looking at that, there was some concern about other things when I was looking about other possible punishments that actually, you actually may make the person more hateful. If you came down, crazy hard on somebody that maybe shouldn't have been, maybe they were just being kind of more stupid or anything and stuff, and you can actually make them more likely to repeat. And that's why I was suggesting not a minimum jail term, and then letting that up to the judge to look at the totality of the facts. So, and then the other check on that would be if this ever is used and we don't like an outcome of something, we can change the ordinance.
Just to clarify, so on 2A, the draft, instead of saying imprisonment of at least 3 days and not to exceed 7, you'd like it to say up to 5 days,
Yeah.
correct? And then 2B, and the fine plus and 30 days of imprisonment, you're saying up to 30 days again? Okay, just clarifying for at least the discussion. Well, I guess how do
So, yeah, Brent, I think
people feel about that?
your point was well met. I think the items, Brian, that you brought up here, I've got no concern with, so if you guys can get back together on that and work on that, I'm fine with that. How do you feel about that? Amy?
I think so. I think I wrote 7 points you had. I just want to make sure I got them. So lobby with the state, totally in agreement with that. I think we discussed that last time.
To make theirs,
But that's not
Look
part,
like
that's not
ours.
part of the ordinance.
Right.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay, you just
separating
want to
this out.
focus on the
Let's do
ordinance.
do the ordinance first. I think the points there that Brian mentioned to us.
So, yes, I can get in alignment with I hadn't thought of the jail time being up to beforehand, but I think I can get behind that, and that's up to
Yep.
the courts. I have a question on the bias. You want it to read, what is that again?
bias-motivated violation of individual rights / hate crime.
That would be the title of the ordinance,
Yeah.
not hate
'Cause
crime.
that's- Well, right, now it just says violation of individual rights, but this says what the problem with it was.
It should bias towards, and then list that entire group of,
Just made it more clear what we were talking about, to me.
Okay.
the only
So
question I
say-
have on the fine and saying that, you know, we would turn around and take the fine money and donate it back. I'm always in favor of donating and doing everything that we can for agencies. Part of this concern is we are paying for court costs of someone, you know, for defending what we're charging them against. So there's a higher cost involved. I think that the money that we would recoup in the fine, which is very little, really should stay in the city coffer, because we are ultimately going to be responsible, or could be, for the entire cost of the entire event on our side and theirs.
Yep.
That would be my only thought on
But if
on the money move.
if somebody pled guilty, Grant, am I correct, and they're just fined, then there would be no, they wouldn't need to get an attorney or anything like that?
They would have the option to seek an attorney from Go.
Right.
And so at their initial appearance, they would be able to ask for an attorney. If they did, then one would be appointed to them. If they selected not, then not. So it depends on, it depends.
Yep.
Let's do that.
So you could set it so that,
And just to be
That-
clear, we wouldn't include that language in an ordinance.
right,
That'd
it would just be a
we
kind of how we would do things.
We would report out at the budget time,
Yeah.
or various times of the year, here's what's been collected. Most likely, as we've indicated here, probably wouldn't be much, if any. And then you folks would make the decision, or the group around this table would make that decision.
Yep.
at
So-
that time.
So, and I want to clarify something just so that it's, I want to make sure I'm understood that had someone plead guilty to a simple misdemeanor this morning, and I would have had the discretion to ask the court to give that person jail time, right? And if they had been indigent, if I would file something with the court saying, I intend to seek jail time, right, for this violation. And right now, today, if someone violates one of our ordinances, simple misdemeanor, and we ask for jail time and the court gets it to them, we would be potentially on the hook for paying for the cost of their defense and the rest of that. That's already something we do. We just typically don't do that as a matter of practice, right? It's an option that's available to us. What makes this particular ordinance noteworthy is that it has a mandatory minimum jail time, so I don't need to say that I'm going to seek jail time. It's already baked into the ordinance. It's going to happen if they're convicted. And so they have, they're going to get counsel appointed to them if they can't afford it on their own from Go. That's the distinction. So that's not that jail time doesn't ever happen. It hasn't since I've been here, but that's just because of our practice. It's the mandatory minimum time frame that makes it, that serves as the enhancement to a city crime that wouldn't otherwise be available to us. That's where the teeth come from, is that there's a minimum. And that's just what I wanted to share with you.
But you could take whatever was left after paying for legal costs. Yeah.
So I think there's, sticking with the ordinance,
Thank you.
there's four things. One, do we as a council, I think we're sort of saying, yes, we want an ordinance. Then within that ordinance, how it's titled, the violation of individual rights dash hate crime or bias.
Yep.
So that's 2. Number 3 is around the jail time. I said there were 4 things. Must have been the other jail time.
And then the political affiliation.
Oh, I think with that, I was trying to go back and forth between ours and then 729A.2, the state of Iowa. Just, I think, making sure all the language is as inclusive as possible, because maybe that's the only one I should just split my screen, but.
That's the one,
making
that
sure
was the one that was left out, and then this other one adds more in.
Marital status and political affiliation, correct?
The state law includes political affiliation.
Okay.
the Iowa City ordinance that we were asked to mirror does not include political affiliation, but includes gender identity and marital status. So those are the three things that are, so all that's in front of you is a carbon copy of what Iowa City has done,
Right.
since that was the request of the Johnson County Interfaith Coalition. And we can mix and match. Theirs is more expansive in some respects and does not include the political affiliation in the other. I would just separately note that there have been resolutions put in front of the state legislature this year and for the last several years trying to include gender identity as one of these. They have not made it out of committee yet, but it is something that's on some folks' radar at the state legislature's level.
So personally, from the greatest good of our community, I'd like to have as inclusive language as possible. So making sure we have every potential in there. Is everyone?
I agree.
Okay.
Yes. Are we good on that? On the ordinance part of it anyway?
So we make a motion to move to include these changes that we suggested, correct?
I don't think we need anything. I think we'll bring
Okay.
back an ordinance.
Okay.
I'll incorporate the changes that you put here tonight. I'll probably watch our video one more time and go through my notes and put together a draft. And then if we want to change anything as you go forward, you can make amendments on the fly. And then we'll bring back amended drafts as you add changes to second and third readings would be our, does that sound right? Okay.
Yeah, that sounds great, Grant. Thank you.
I have one more thing.
Yeah, please.
I just also want to acknowledge, our mayor had sent out what North Liberty values are, just as a draft to start the conversation. So I thought that was great. We just can continue to expand on that in our ongoing conversations.
Yeah, and to that point, we can separately write a resolution that would include the preamble that the mayor produced for us. And can we add the advocacy portion to that resolution, or is it just policy that we will be meeting with the League of Cities?
Well, I think you can add whatever you want to it.
Okay.
Well, you just say that we, and the city will continue to advocate for the equitable treatment of all peoples, individuals, whatever.
Well, thanks for all the work.
Yeah,
all
so
the
Grant, is that
discussions.
helpful for helping to draft resolution
Comfortable
then as well?
conversation.
Actionable items that we can set in a resolution and also provide some record of advocating then at the state level.
I think I've got some clear direction.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Council, thank you as well. All right. Take a breath. Grant, item 18, recordation ordinance. Did I say that correctly? Public hearing regarding proposed amendments to the recordation ordinance. I'm
I
gonna
don't
try
think
it.
I've ever heard it pronounced out loud.
I'm gonna
so
try it
it's-
separate. I'm gonna try it two ways, see what everybody likes.
Whichever way you want. So this is just, sometime last year, we modified our subdivision plating ordinance saying you have to, that we had an MLO, minimum low opening, listed on the plat. It got moved out into a separate table, but we say we need to record the plat but not the table. Everyone's been doing this. We're just codifying this, so when you look at what our code says, you have an idea of what the process is supposed to be. There's no controversy with this as far as I'm aware, and our building official and the other staff recommend approval.
Fantastic. Let's move on then to item 18B, which is the first consideration of ordinance number 2021-14, an ordinance amending the recordation requirements of final subdivision plat documents in Chapter 180 of the North Liberty Code of Ordinances. Could I have a motion for that item, please?
So moved. Second?
Got that, Tracy?
Sure do.
All right, moved and seconded. Are there any other discussion points for it? All right, Tracy, can I have roll call, please?
Wason,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Hoffman,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Harrington.
Aye.
Motion passed. Item 19 is the JT Properties rezoning, and this is, 19A is our second consideration of ordinance number 2021-13, An ordinance amending Chapter 167 of the North Liberty Code of Ordinance by amending the use regulations on property located at the southwest corner of Highway 965 and 240th Street, located in North Liberty, Iowa, to those set forth in the municipal code for the C2A Highway Commercial District. Could I have a motion for that? Second consideration.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, discussions since the last meeting? All right, hearing none. Tracy, roll call, please.
Hoffman,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Harrington.
Aye.
All right, look at us, moving on. Item 20 is old business. Are there any things to rehash for old business? I
So,
was nodding first, Annie, and then
No problem.
over in your court.
so this is very old business, the business of COVID. And we're all done with it, over it, sick of it. I don't care if folks are anti-mask or pro-mask. If you are anti-vaccine or pro-vaccine, be kind to one another, please. I hate wearing this thing on my face. I spent 8 months on Project Better together, doing all that we could to have the distinction that we have today of being the county with the highest vaccine rate in the state. And here we sit with a mask on our face. I hate it. I think we did everything that we could to give people options. People have had plenty of time to make their own choices. And I think government and media need to get out of the way. I get it that all the cities around us are requiring the masks on our face. But at 70% in the county and making that mandate, not personally in favor, but as a representative, I sit here with this on my face for the betterment and the good of the community. I do not, and I want to make it very clear to staff, to department heads, I do not want to see reductions in programming. We've been down that road. We did what we needed to at the time because we didn't know a lot about the disease. We didn't know a lot about the treatment. We were doing everything that we could to keep our folks safe. I'm not saying that we've done anything wrong, because we haven't. But I do not want to see us go backwards, especially when it comes to serving the kids in the community with the programs that they so desperately need. So please, as you have those conversations moving forward about programs, I don't want to see reductions in programs for our kids. I think that much more harm comes of that, as did canceling school, than any respiratory virus is going to do to a child. So that's old business, that's a soapbox, and I appreciate the time, Mayor Pro Tem.
Annie?
Similar topic, COVID-19, old business, and still current business. Yes, be kind to individuals. Please, if you don't have information, if you need information, reach out. 2 of us work in hospitals, we're on the front lines, we're in community service, we're in business. I mean, reach out to us, reach out to the CDC, reach out to local hospitals to get information. Encourage to get vaccinated, and slightly different stance, very pro-mask, vaccinated or not. Please continue to protect and do your part. No one wants to wear this. With the variants on the rise, we don't know. We just when we think we know, we don't know. I'm not a scientist, so just do your part. It can be annoying, but we need to do this for everyone. On the other side of it, please reach out to individuals. This is a very isolating disease. We're all here in person, but think of your neighbors. the person you used to see going on a walk might not be there anymore, whatever it is, reach out to people that you maybe haven't reached out to in a while. So that's my challenge to everyone. Just reach out to 2 people this week. An old friend, maybe they live local, maybe they don't, a neighbor, someone that just who hasn't been impacted with this. So just reach out, be kind to one another, local and afar. Thank you.
Welcome. Anyone else?
I think they said a lot about COVID, and I think even as people listen to the various opinions about wearing masks or being vaccinated or not, we do all have to do our part and take this seriously. Again, our youth aren't able to get vaccinated, and we don't really know how it's impacting them. So if nothing else, we all continue to do our part in this. And hopefully we'll go back the other way. And as a person who does programming and have to think about spacing and keeping young people apart, it is a challenge because they want to be touched. I mean, they're very touchy-feely and, they don't understand the stay distance things because they're happy to see their friends. And so we do have to take that in consideration with safety precautions. But you're right, when we don't offer those programs, just like adults, when it comes to isolation, those young people need those social opportunities as well. And we just have to collectively figure out a way to make that happen. And if masks and encouraging people to get vaccinated is what we can do just from that standpoint, then we need to continue to do that.
I'll add just a couple of more things, and I hear you chiming in over here. I got you. That you guys both said it. I have a 10-year-old that can't get vaccinated yet. So this mask is for her in my household because 3 of us are. And I will wear it happily if it protects her. I love being in public meetings. Our city has, in my opinion, done a tremendous job at following the guidance that our CDC presents to us, which changes, and science does. If it didn't, we'd still be sticking leeches on cuts and crossing our fingers. So with that, you had something else that you wanted to add? Ron?
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I'll change the topic here. Mr. Paul Park is in the audience tonight, and I think was hoping to just address the council briefly on being that the council accepted his offer.
Terrific. I was hoping you would get to say something as well.
I just want to say thanks. As you know, Peggy and I own the Heinz building also, and so now we will own, a pretty good size of what I'm excited will, to me, shaping up to be the downtown of North Liberty. So I just wanted to say thanks, and I just to let you know, we love this city, we love our community, we love our county, I love everything about this place, and, you have a willing teammate in that area to, community events, whatever it's going to be. So I also have plans, long-term plans, but even more short-term with Dubuque Street, happening. We're really excited about that. I know that's, probably going to impact Heinz and a little bit, during the construction, but I'm sure you guys have, everything so far has been very accommodating, to that fact, so we appreciate that too. And we know long-term, that's just the price of progress. So we are excited, and I'm going to do some things even, to the Heinz building, and to the old police station to just make it pretty, make it vibe with what you guys have planned for that area. So that's it, man. Just thanks, and I'm really excited to be here to say things. So.
Well, stick around. We weren't able to really address it at this item, but I think we had a chance to talk about this as a group, and I can't speak for the council, but we were really excited about what you had proposed to do in there. And I think you took the vision of what we're hoping to achieve at a city level, and you took it on and you personalized it. And I think that was very attractive to us. So if you do anything that's similar to what you've kind of thought of already, I'm going to be excited about it.
Be better. That was just
Awesome.
a general mock-up. So
Awesome.
better than that.
And thanks, Paul. I know you're someone who lives here, you work here, you develop here. So just thank you for being a part of our community in all those aspects.
My pleasure. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, and continue to have that vision to tie in the community with whatever is next with that project. And like both of them said, you already proposed something that is very favorable in our viewpoint right now. And Hines is one of those places that people know that is here and it's a gathering space. So I definitely look forward to see what's coming from it.
Sweet.
Sure.
Thank you, Paul. I think that's gonna be like you said, a real anchor there for that, that Cherry Street vision that we have. I know Ryan is excited about that being one of those anchors, along with Moxie Solar and their vision of what they want down there. The pedestrian walkability in that space from our community center all the way down through Hines. And I'm sure that Annie and I specifically, probably everyone else at the table, will assure that Kevin does not keep us from our Heinz ice cream. So there will be a lane open and a sidewalk open at all times to Heinz ice cream.
We were there last night, yes.
Terrific. Thank you again, Paul.
All right, thank you.
All right, item 21 is new business. Mr. Wason.
I just want to go back to old business, since we're going to talk about that we like to congratulate the city staff at recognizing that we were spending a lot of money taking care of a tiny piece of property that we didn't really need anymore, and we got rid of that today. We wanted to make sure, that's why you were here. So.
Good point.
Chris, on new business, I want to thank the Boy Scouts for working with our Parks Department. That was in our packet that if you haven't been to Beaver Creek Park, there's a new bridge there because of an Eagle Scout project and the Boy Scout work with Guy and park staff. And I've seen it, it's neat, and it was a big project. And I really appreciate those efforts and would invite everybody to the park to check out that work. It's pretty neat.
Very true. Any other items for new business, you guys? All right, let us adjourn this meeting. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.